Now that we have the official order for the draft, today I want to dive into the future and the situations ahead for every team that's going to be holding a top 5 selection. If you guys like the content, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. We're going to have a lot of content coming out, both for the draft and the offseason, so you want to be subscribed. Let's aim for at least 1 like on today's video, and let's get into this. Today's video is sponsored by PrizePicks. It's a player prop site legal in most US states. You just pick over or under on different stats for up to 10 times your entry. Sadly, the NBA season is coming to an end, so we just have a few more weeks of NBA entries, so we need to catch fire, and I really think that begins tonight. I'm taking over on Luka Doncic's PRA. I've said this a million times. I'm taking Luka every chance I can get, and with him getting like 12 rebounds a game right now, I'm going to go PRA. Then I'm taking Reggie Bullock's over on points. Aside from that one game where he couldn't get a single thing to go, he's hit the over on every game in the series. Then I'm taking Clay's over on threes, as he just seems due for a big game. And then I'm going to correlate that with Curry's over on assists. If all this happens, my $100 entry becomes $1,000. If you guys want to check out PrizePicks, we've got a pretty awesome promo for you. After your first deposit, if you do at least a $5 entry and Curry can score at least 1 point in the remainder of this series, you're going to get $50. Pretty crazy. Thank you PrizePicks for sponsoring today's video. We're going to start with the team holding the #1 pick, the Orlando Magic. This is a really interesting team to look at. They went on a really long stretch, hanging around the NBA middle ground, led by Vucevic. Then last season, we saw him commit to the rebuild, trading away both Vucevic and Aaron Gordon, and now they're in a position where things are looking up, definitely helped by them recently winning the lottery. Let's first look at this roster as it stands right now. They've got some pretty decently sized contracts, but none that are too crippling. Gary Harris was the top player in their books last season. He's going to be a free agent and probably out the door. Their top pick from 2017, Jonathan Isaac, is on contract till 2025, getting around $17 million a season. I really can't wait to see him return to the court. Things were looking good for him before going down with that ACL injury in 2020 that eventually caused him to miss the next 2 seasons. He was in his 3rd year, truly on pace to be one of the league's elite defenders, while showing a lot of improvement as a scorer. It's hard to say what we can expect from him when he returns, but I really think he's going to be the X factor for their success in the near future. Then you've got Markelle Fultz, the #1 pick in 2017, that is also earning around $17 million on contract for 2 more years. While he's really turned things around after having one of the most disappointing starts to a career for a #1 pick, there isn't too much to get excited about for Magic fans going forward. He's solid, no doubt, but the shooting still hasn't come, and with him past his rookie deal, even if we see a breakout in the next couple seasons, as we said, he's only on contract for 2 more seasons. Then you've got Terrence Ross, a guy that's been one of the league's elite 6-men for quite a while now, but he's going to be in the final year of his deal. He had a pretty down season, but it's looking like he'll be actively involved in this summer's trade market, so I don't think we should be factoring him in to this team's future too much. Then you've got Wendell Carter, who they got in that Vucevic trade, who they signed to an extension that's going to earn him on a front-loaded contract around $13 million a season through 2026. His role is definitely threatened by the projected selection at #1, but considering how well-rounded his game is, I really think he's going to bring great value even if he's not able to crack that starting rotation. The Magic have a decision to make this offseason with their top pick from 2018, Mo Bamba. It's been an up-and-down career, but after taking a massive jump on the offensive side this season, shooting over 38% from 3 on 4 attempts a game, I definitely think there's going to be some serious interest from teams across the league. He's going to be a restricted free agent, and I don't think it's going to take too much for the Magic not to match the market offers. Like we talked about with Wendell Carter, Jonathan Isaac is returning, and with the potential selection of someone like Chet Holmgren, when you already have $13 million invested into Wendell Carter possibly coming off the bench, it doesn't make a lot of sense to really go out of your way to re-sign Bamba. We'll have to see what the offers are, but I would expect him to be moving teams this offseason. Then you got their top pick from 2019, Cole Anthony. Despite an amazing start to the season, he basically just repeated his disappointing rookie year just in a higher volume. He averaged 16, 6, and 5, but shot just 39% from the field. Now there's no denying the talent, we've seen it in stretches, so I really think next season we're going to have a much more clear idea of what the rest of his career is going to look like. Then lastly, we've got their 2 lottery selections from the most recent 2021 NBA draft. They landed Jalen Suggs at 5, which many deemed the best value on draft night, with the Raptors' decision to go in favor of Scottie Barnes. I think it's safe to say that ended up being the right decision by Toronto. Jalen Suggs was easily the most disappointing rookie of the year. He averaged 12 points and 4 assists, shooting an atrocious 36% from the field and 21% from 3. Again, the talent is there, but it's extremely concerning considering coming into the draft, he was deemed one of the safer prospects in the class. Now, the Magic ended up making up for that selection by getting Franz Wagner with the 8th overall pick. I really didn't have an opinion on him going into the season, but it's safe to say he blew away my expectations. He was able to make all rookie team honors, averaging 15, 5, and 3, shooting 47% from the field and 35% from 3. I really think he's just scratching the surface of what he's capable of, making him one of the more exciting young players to pay attention to on this roster. Now there's some other young guys like RJ Hampton and Chuma Okeke, but these are the main ones I think we really should be paying attention to going forward. Now let's get into the draft. Obviously, they've got the #1 pick, and they've got a decision to make. Chet Holmgren, Jabari Smith, or Paolo Banchero. As of right now, it definitely feels like Chet and Jabari are the favorites, with Chet probably slightly ahead. Just given the roster, with Franz and Isaac expected to be starting, it makes sense to keep it simple and take Chet, that some deem the clear top player in this class. That's going to be their only first rounder, assuming we don't see them make a trade, but they're still in great position in the draft for future years. They hold all their future first rounders, as well as the Bulls first rounder next season, coming from that Vucevic trade. So here's a position I think we're likely going to see the Magic in. Assuming Isaac can come back and be the player we remember, they're going to have a big three of him, Franz, and Chet that, considering what they can do on both ends, should be extremely lethal for many years to come. Possibly the only question mark being, does any of them really have the potential to be an all-star caliber scorer? They're going to have some super solid depth in the front court with Wendell Carter, but they're going to have to focus on this front court in the coming seasons. As we talked about, both Cole Anthony and Jalen Suggs have the potential to be great guards in this league, but it's an uphill battle that is yet to be determined. Regardless, there has not been much to get excited about for Orlando fans, really in the last decade, but that's far from the case right now. Next up, we've got a team that I love talking about, and that's the Oklahoma City Thunder that just landed the second overall pick in the upcoming draft. It's very clear who the face of this team is currently. That's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the 6'6" guard who's coming off a year averaging 25, 6, and 5, and he's locked up till 2027. But it is a deal that's going to come with some heavy expectations, as in that 2027 season, he's going to be earning nearly $40 million. After him, the only player to really get excited about is their most recent top pick, 6'8" point guard Josh Giddey. This year, he averaged 13 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists, and really improved as a scorer as the season went on. The outside shooting still needs to be improved, but given his elite playmaking ability and skill at his size, I haven't met a single Thunder fan that's not extremely excited about what's to come for him. After them, as we mentioned, there's not too much to be said about the rest of this roster, and I wouldn't expect many to be around for a long time. There's some exceptions like Trey Mann, who I thought was really impressive in flashes as a rookie this year, and Jeremiah Robinson Earl, who I think will be a solid 3-and-D wing for this team. But guys like Darius Bazley and Poku, while it's fun to talk about their potential, we need to be realistic. With the sheer amount of draft picks heading the Thunder's way, there's going to be a lot of pressure on these mid-level young guys, not only to hold on to significant roles, but to get another deal from the Thunder past their rookie contract. Now, there's a player you probably think I'm missing, and that's Lu Dort. As much as I love his game and want to see him a part of the Thunder's future, it's just hard to imagine that right now. He only has one more year left on his deal, and he's going to be an unrestricted free agent after that, as this is actually his second contract after signing just a 2-way deal after going undrafted in 2019. While yes, there's a chance they're able to extend him this offseason, that's not a guarantee. But there's also a super solid chance he doesn't even take the court for the Thunder next season. Considering his deal that's going to pay him less than $2 million, his value is pretty high in the trade market, as literally every team in the league can make a deal work, at least when it comes to the money side of things. Now, who are the Thunder going to be selecting in the upcoming draft? Obviously, it's going to be heavily dependent on who the Magic go with. They'll most likely go with whoever's on the board between Chet Holmgren and Jabari Smith, and with it looking like the Magic will probably favor Chet, I would expect as of now Jabari Smith to be coming to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I really think this is the best case scenario. If they were at 1, they'd probably be tempted to go with Chet, but I think getting Jabari makes the most sense given their situation. They're still a few years away from really putting together a competitive roster, and I think Smith brings the most top-end upside of these top prospects in the draft. The shooting he brings, especially off the dribble, you rarely see at someone of that size, which you've got to think, at least on paper, should be super exciting to watch alongside one of the better playmaking backcourts in the league. Now, the draft is going to be far from done after this selection. They're going to have 2 more first-rounders. They've got 12 coming from the Clippers, where we should expect them to just go best player available. Some players that could be there include Johnny Davis, Mark Williams, Jalen Duren, and Tari Eason. I think we'll probably see them throw a lot of smoke screens of interest in the bigs like Williams and Duren, with that being the projected focus of the Hornets, trying to get them to jump up and give Presti his favorite thing in the world, future draft picks. The other first rounder is going to be the last selection. It's hard to project who's going to be there, but there should be some solid options with guys like Wendell Moore and one of the biggest risers from the combine, Jalen Williams. Then they're going to be selecting just a few picks later at 34. So I think you get a good idea of what I was talking about when I mentioned the amount of pressure that's on these Thunder young guys with all these new draft picks coming into town, especially considering this is far from the only draft where they're going to be having multiple first rounders. They're projected to have 4 next season, 3 in 2024, 4 in 2025, 3 in 2026, plus they're still holding another first rounders in 2027 and 2028. So you can clearly see, now that they've been able to lock down a top 3 pick, there is no team in the league with more firepower, both in the draft and the trade market. The trade scenarios are really what makes this team fun. If they can hit on this selection, if someone like Jabari Smith can be the player we expect, the Thunder are going to be in the perfect position to start cashing in some of these picks and practically fly out of a rebuild overnight. The Thunder's future success is practically a guarantee. It's just going to be a matter of if they'll be able to find that top 10 talent that's almost required now to really compete for a title. Next up, we've got the Houston Rockets, and this is a team that confused me this past season. They're obviously in a full-on rebuild, but they stayed quiet at the deadline, despite having some solid veteran talent such as Christian Wood and Eric Gordon. There isn't too much to be said about this roster outside of a few young pieces. John Wall is a $47 million player option. He's clearly going to accept that. Eric Gordon has 2 years left on his contract, getting $20 million a year, considering his age and his play as of late. While it's very realistic he's involved in a trade this offseason, you shouldn't be expecting too much in return. Then you've got Christian Wood. As much as I think the Rockets would love to keep him around, that's not a guarantee. He's only got 1 year left on his contract, and with the value he brings on both ends of the floor, getting just $14 million, I actually think he's one of the more interesting trade targets considering how attainable he is financially for contenders across the league. I really like the value that the Rockets could potentially get for him this offseason. Now we need to mention this young core. Similar to the Thunder, while Rockets fans love to hype up every little piece, every little second rounder, there's just a couple young pieces that we really need to talk about here. You've got Kevin Porter Jr., a special offensive talent that this year averaged 16 and 6. He's going to be on the last year of his rookie contract and will be a restricted free agent after that. Now, there's no question he has a chance to be a 20+ a night scorer, but there are some serious questions surrounding his future with the Rockets just due to his fit alongside the future face of their franchise, Jalen Green. There's some other solid young guys like Jayshawn Tate and Kenyon Martin Jr., but their future really only starts to get interesting when talking about their most recent draft class. They traded with the Thunder on draft night to bring in foreign prospect Alperen Sengun, who I think it's safe to say blew away most expectations. He averaged just 10 and 6, but it was his skill set that really had people impressed. Being able to play make from the post and spread the floor at the center position is becoming more and more sought after, both skills he's bringing to the table. If he can put everything together, he has the chance to be a special piece of their future. Now, the main player that everyone wants to talk about when it comes to this team is the second overall pick from a year ago, Jalen Green. Now, Jalen Green had a very up and down rookie season. After a super impressive year in the G League and then continuing that success into the Summer League, I had sky-high expectations for him on the offensive side. Expectations he didn't come close to reaching for most of the year. It was pretty ugly, but as he got more and more comfortable, as he got more and more confident, we started to see the player we thought he would be when he went second overall. In the final 10 games of the season, he averaged 28 points, shooting 49% from the field and 43% from 3 on over 10 attempts a game. That's all I needed to see. This kid is gonna be special, which makes things very interesting considering that they have a top 3 pick locked up in the upcoming draft. This selection will be massive for the Rockets. And while yes, they are in a rebuild, they're not going to have control of all their future first round picks due to the Russell Westbrook trade a few years back with the Thunder. Now luckily, they don't really have a decision to make here at 3. Almost every projection has Jabari Smith and Chet coming off the board at 1 and 2, with the Rockets seeing the clear top player in Deuce Paolo Banchero. The only other player some people even bother debating with Paolo would be Jaden Ivey, who doesn't make a lot of sense considering the presence of Jalen Green. Now, I would love the addition of Paolo. He's probably the safest selection in the draft in my opinion. He truly has an elite, NBA-ready frame, which is scary for a player that has the offensive skill set that he does. I thought it was interesting to see how little credit Banchero was given for his improvement throughout the season. We saw him grow as a playmaker and especially as a shooter going into and in the NCAA tournament. The main concern that people are bringing up now is defense, but this really doesn't concern me one bit. It kind of reminds me of Ben Simmons in college. People keep bringing up effort, but I'm just not too worried about a guy that's 6'10", 250 pounds with a 7'1" wingspan. It's still to be determined, and they're going to need him to be solid on that end, playing with Green, but I think if you're a Rockets fan, you have to be thrilled with what the future holds. Next up, we've got the biggest riser of the lottery, the Sacramento Kings, a team that I've been super critical of since the NBA trade deadline, and I really think they might have been bailed out here. Again, there's not too much to mention when it comes to veteran talent. They've got Harrison Barnes for one more season, who's actually one of the most talked about players when it comes to trades, and I fully expect him to be on the move and the Kings to get a pretty decent haul. They've got a solid big in Richaun Holmes, locked up for 2 more years with a player option after that. They've got Domantas Sabonis, a player that they traded for at the deadline, giving up a package headlined by Tyrese Halliburton, objectively one of the most impressive players from that 2020 class in the middle of just his second season in the league. Now, Sabonis is a great player, no doubt, and he definitely fits into this roster well, but he has just 2 years left on his contract. I'm not sure the Kings are going to be able to do much in the next 2 seasons, making this deal one of the most questionable we've ever seen. This team's 2 main young pieces happen to share the same position. That's De'Aaron Fox and Davion Mitchell. Fox has been super impressive since getting drafted in 2017. He's coming off a season averaging 23 and 6, but he doesn't go without concern. He's yet to become a serious threat from outside, and he struggled to eclipse the 60-game mark in the last 3 seasons. Davion Mitchell was their top pick in the most recent draft, a surprising selection to almost everyone, deciding to take a point guard on a team that already has Halliburton and Fox, especially one that's 22 years old. Now, Mitchell had a pretty solid year. He averaged 12 points and 4 assists, He struggled with his efficiency, but looked super solid on the defensive end. Now, I mentioned that they got bailed out, and I really mean it. They jumped up 3 spots to number 4, allowing them to take the consensus pick here on Jaden Ivey, a 6'4" shooting guard that has a chance to be a two-way beast at the NBA level, and alongside Fox, form one of the most explosive backcourts in the league. Depending on how he pans out, he really might have saved them from being the laughingstock of the league for deciding to trade away Halliburton that since that trade has averaged 18, 10, and 4, shooting practically 50, 40, 90. As far as their future draft picks go, they're holding on to all theirs, so all things considered, I think their future is still bright, but I wouldn't count on the Kings not to mess it up. Lastly, we've got the team holding the 5th overall pick in the draft, the Detroit Pistons. They have a busy offseason ahead, not just due to their top pick, but how active they're expected to be in the trade market, the main player involved being Jeremy Grant. When they signed him to an $80 million deal, it got a lot of criticism, but it's looking like it might pay off. He's coming off a year averaging 19 points, shooting 43% from the field, and 36% from 3. With him on contract for just one more season, it seems extremely likely he's going to be traded, and the Pistons are probably going to get a solid return. With limited options in free agency, I think you're going to see inflated value for guys like Grant, who are low risk with 1 year remaining and have proved themselves in the playoffs to be difference makers on both ends. I could easily see teams like the Blazers or Hawks willing to give up first round draft compensation in order to bring in Grant. There really isn't much other notable veteran pieces. The only player that's not on a rookie contract on the books for more than one season is Kelly Olynyk, who's getting paid $13 million for the next 2 years. I really like this Pistons young core. They appeared to miss with their top pick in 2020, Killian Hayes. He looks solid on the defensive end, but super concerning on the offensive side, and I really don't think that's going to change. Luckily, they would hit with their second first rounder, Saddiq Bey, who in the last 2 seasons has proven his ability as a 3-and-D wing, averaging 14 points, shooting 36% from 3 on really high volume. I don't think his ceiling is super high, but he should be an amazing piece for them for a very long time. They made another great selection in that draft, getting Isaiah Stewart, who's averaged 8 points and 9 rebounds, really bringing his value with what he can do on the defensive end. So their core was coming together, but they needed to strike luck in the lottery, and that's exactly what they did last season, landing the number 1 overall pick where they took Cade Cunningham. As a rookie, he was able to average 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. The efficiency wasn't beautiful, but consistently went up as the season progressed. I really don't think it's a question that he has multiple All-Star appearances coming his way. One of the biggest tells for me that a player is going to be a serious problem is their ability to slow the game down and play at their own pace. Sure, that might not have come easy for him at the start of the season, but I really think we saw it towards the end of the year. Having that at a 6'7" point guard frame is going to be tough to defend, especially as the confidence rises. Now, who are they going to get with this top pick? They got unlucky. They came in the lottery with top 3 odds, ended up landing at 5, just missing out on Jaden Ivey, who I think will be the perfect backcourt mate to Cade. Now, luckily for them, there's still a super solid shooting guard prospect they can get. He just comes with a little bit more risk, and that's Shaedon Sharpe. Sharpe is a top recruit that was projected to compete for the number 1 pick next season. He ended up reclassifying in the middle of the year, joined Kentucky, but didn't take the court. The talent is undeniable, but he's an unknown. Jaden Harvey was looked at as a lock before the season started to be a top pick. Now he's being mocked in the mid to late first round. The Pistons could be getting number 1 overall pick value here, or overpaying for a guy that might fall down the board next season. The risk is there, but given the Pistons' position, they've got to take it. I think this team is still a ways away from really competing, but they're holding on to all their future draft picks, and if Cade can be the player I think he can, there's a chance he can quickly lead them out of the bottom of the league, like we've seen recently with guys like Luka Doncic and Trae Young. But that's it in video, guys. It was a long video, probably my longest video I've ever done. If you somehow made it this far, you're the GOAT. Comment completed, and I'll make sure to like that comment. Hope you guys have a great day, and peace.